roughly around 4 to 5 minutes in, and just to give you a little bit of context on who I'm coaching and what I'm coaching, I'm working with our 16 to 19-year-old college program, predominantly the top players, so the first and second team players, and looking at how we can work as a back four. The reason in doing so is because I've been specifically asked by our lead coach to run a practice on how the back four can defend from crosses in wide areas, as he's highlighted that as a potential exposure, and something we've been struggling with in recent weeks. The practice format is a wave practice. The area length is 36 yards, so 18-yard box plus another 18-yard box, a 6-yard box which I've marked out with flat discs, a full-size goal at either end, and a crossing channel out wide which is approximately 8 yards wide. Players work in a wave format. The idea behind this was to encourage lots of repetition. The back four work consistently against two centre forwards, but also two players who join in from the side of the goal. The session time I was allowed was 30 minutes, so not too long to get across some ideas. However, would look to probably repeat the practice and go back into it. The session format was based around the Teaching Games for Understanding model, which was first proposed by Bunker and Thorpe in 1982-1986. Their aim was to simplify the game and allow for challenges in the game and learning to take place for the participants during the game. However, Thorpe 2015, quoted in Renshaw et al. 2016, highlights that we cannot solely use the TGFU model, as we do not have the ability to create a game perfect enough that allows for no need for or any communication during the practice. Because of this, I've put modifications into the practice which I deem will allow me to take or get the desired outcomes that I want. As you can see here, you pick up the practice, just trying to encourage the first idea around the back four and how they can defend narrow to discourage play through them, and to try and promote play wide, out to the wide area. Question in here to encourage participant input, instead of just telling and giving answers to the players to ready to see and to test what knowledge they already possess and have.
Where would you defend first? Think about your area of first defending. Where would you go in more, do you reckon? So if you're trying to stop that cross, where would you try and protect first?
Here I speak to Mikel and ask him where he could be and why he would be there. So a deeper level of questioning to test his knowledge and to test his understanding before, again, giving the answer.
We're going to play from John. Good, let him get set, John. Boys on the boys that are joining in on the wave.
As the practice starts to emerge throughout the sort of 20 minutes on the video, you'll begin to see something that obviously we can, through the modification, through something called a representative task and through exaggeration. So Sarah Oliveira's et al. 2016 generalizes this as a representation of the game that keeps the main properties of the original game, but in a new format. So that's my aim around the session design, is to modify and to give the players an idea of what they would perhaps see and understand, but in a new format away from the full-size 11v11. The modification of the task through the exaggeration of the task conditions helps to determine the problems that emerge from the practice in the game. So by doing this, it allows for a high level of exposure to the back four around their outcomes or their desired outcomes for their practice.
One more, we're going from this end. Ready? Yeah, play. Just when you're defending in this end here, try and make sure the Imagine we're going the other way. It's unnatural for you because you're defending as the right side. As you twist, try and drop off and twist. So now you're here and you're facing.
So here I try to help Rayon through one of the issues that he's currently having around the practice design and the fact that he at times will find himself as the right back, but also at times will find himself as the left back. Again here a modification or a certain way in which I would like the players to play. I've changed the crossing type.
Now you two have to combine somehow. It might be that Shaq gets round him on the overlap. Slide him in. Good. And freeze. Now back four. Tell me the difference now in the picture. So they're the crosses for much deeper. Good. There's more space here now.
So here I just aim to expose the players to my second idea and second picture in terms of the type of cross they might face and how they can act and deal with the second type of delivery. The first delivery was from a lot of a deeper position where they were aiming just to put it in between the 18-yard box and the penalty spot. Now we've adapted it and gone deeper, so how they can change and what their roles become in this idea.
One of you has to go and try and meet the ball and get contact to get it away or to take it down. Ready? Let's go back into the keeper. You two, so for your defensive roles, as it switches, the closest to the ball always does the front post. The one opposite or the other one will protect the middle, and you go and try and do cutbacks or anyone that's coming in to attack the ball.
Okay, and just to reinforce the message to Shani and Nathan around their defensive roles and how they would defend given the flip of the practice design. Again here, just talking to Mikel, he's facing similar issues that Rayon has at the moment in terms of changing and adjusting their body shape, which was one of my main priorities in the practice design when I tried to focus on the defensive outcomes. I was talking about body shape and opening up their hips early, so just reinforcing that message to him around how he might be able to do that in a more effective manner. So here, just to give you a context of what I've done here is I've brought the back four in because my specific outcomes of the practice were related to the back four's design and the session design and around how they can defend effectively. So again, just to reinforce the message here. However, at the same time, what I've asked the attacking team to do in terms of a little bit of peer assessment and peer learning is to take themselves in and to discuss ways in which they can become more effective with their outcomes. So my intention was to never coach the attacking team in terms of movement and types of run or different ways in which they could score. So by doing that, they might be able to come up with some ideas of their own whilst also just reinforcing the message to the defensive players. Again here, just about to again go through another idea that I wanted to promote in terms of crossing type. So the modification of the practice again being changed. You just heard me on that moment in time just add a little bit of humour in with Kai and Kevin, who are two of our better players. And I'm going to talk about coach behaviours a little bit further through and around some of the things that I observed during the practice or how I acted and behaved.
see this one a bit more, you two. You're in good shape here, protecting and blocking this area. If he knocks it backwards, what do we have to do? Have to get up and out. Out with the ball, up, 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 up. Hopefully leave them offside. Okay, so you've got to get up. Wide players, if you can mix that one up now, that'll be superb. John, we're playing from you when you're ready. Aggressive defending back two. Boys, remember we spoke about open your hips up earlier. Let's go, play. In, tight, tight. Good, yeah, keep playing. Good, stay on side. Start to slide. Good, serve. Good, what's he going to do? Up, 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 up. Offside. Glenn Hicks. On or off? You can drive in with a ball.
So again here, just incorporating in one of the last ideas that I had for the players, so of the wide player now driving in and engaging.
He drives in here, coming in. Get out and stop the cross. Good. So you still got to do your job here. Same for you.
So in here you can see that I'm just trying to walk through the different roles and ideas of the back four and how they might deal with this type of cross or this new challenge they're facing.
Try and smother the cross because you're still trying to stop the service. Got it? Got it? Back in here. We're going to play from this end again. Just let's go. Play. Yeah, tight, 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 tight. Narrow off, narrow off. Make sure you're narrow. Good, slide wide. Good, go on in, drive in. Dead. Drop out. Dead, 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 dead. You two.
I'm just going to bring it back slightly here. So the practice design was focused around the idea of the back four defending primarily. So I gave them three challenges or three priorities that I would like them to see from them during the practice. So a unit objective. The first one was in order to maintain possession was to stay calm and, if they can, defend by bringing the ball down. Second one was to secure possession by defending to give it to somebody else on their team, so on the yellow team. And then the third one was just if they really felt the need to, was to get it away to safety. This is in line with our sort of playing philosophy around maintaining possession. So I'm just going to roll the clip through here in a really good a really good example of how they managed to keep the ball and to play out. And I think the justification and rationale behind this was around the fact that a lot of the time defensive players are given a main defensive priority, which they have been. However, when they achieve that, the ball possession is a lot of the time transferred back to the attacking team. So they, in my opinion, in my past experience, they lose the motivation to defend. And again, Lee 1997 supports this. However, his study wasn't around coaching; it was around motivation and increasing motivation during physical education lessons. He suggests that students' motivational beliefs and their motivation to the task reflects the enjoyment but also the usefulness of the learning activity and how they can transfer to the real game. So I was really big on trying to emphasize the fact that they would have a set objective in order to go the other way and break out and score the other way. Using Partington and Cushing 2011 and their criteria for coach observation, I tried to analyse and sort of generalise how I act and behave throughout my practice. Throughout the practice, I think I use a mixture of different coach behaviours. However, I sort of edge towards using primarily a lot of praise, reinforcement and positive feedback, as well as humour. If I was to be particularly self-critical, I think I would assess and analyse just how much concurrent instruction I give. So Partington and Cushing classified this as cues and prompts of the outcomes during the practice. Convergent questioning and divergent questioning allows me to get short answers, but also again more detail. So that was something that I was happy with. However, like I mentioned before, a little bit critical and probably brought to my attention a little bit more so being recorded and videoed the amount of concurrent instruction I give. The reason for this is Partington and Cushing 2011 say it leads to a lack of creative and expressive players throughout the practice. However, working with these players regularly, I think I've got to know their body language and their kind of behaviours and their patterns of their behaviour. And again, Santos et al. 2013 mentions the importance on noticing to inform action. This is understanding and placing awareness on the mood and the behaviours of the athletes prior to the coaching. So for me, I associate this with the demands of what they need as a group. So behaviour-wise, they can be quite challenging. And previous experience has shown that if I don't challenge them sufficiently or, drive the session, I lose that player input and perhaps the quality that I would like to get out of the practice. Hillhouse et al. 2011 also found that direct supervision and input of coach during the sessions has shown to improve adherence to the training and also the intensity and the increase in performance measures of the session. However, something I would perhaps look to give less of if I were to repeat the practice and go into it again on a further date. With that in mind, I think I would. We were fortunate enough to have these guys 2 to 3 times a week in the build up to a match day. So this is probably something that I would look to go into again, perhaps the next day. However, with a little bit of a lesser emphasis on the exaggeration of the crossing types, and would perhaps look to take off some of those limitations that I've put in place for the players. Here you just see a kind of generic debrief where I aim to focus on the players, and again just to check for learning and understanding, and I think that links in nicely to Argyris and Sean 1974 and their the triple loop learning model that they propose. I think this is again why I would look to repeat the practice, as the single loop phase focuses on what the players are learning about. So perhaps touched upon more of that during this practice than anything else, as it's a first introduction. The double loop learning stage introduces players to thinking around the task and the desired behaviours they need to have completed the task effectively. And then the third stage of the triple loop learning looks at why we do it. So I would repeat the practice and perhaps take off the limitations that I put on the players, play more openly, and just see what sort of learning has actually taken place during the practice design.